decades, and we're down to about 23,000 acres. And we could continue to lose our farmland if we don't figure out how to make it commercially viable to farm, but also sustainable. And the day that it hit me the most that agriculture in our county, in our country, may not be delivering for our people the way it used to, was when the pandemic really hit. And the food distribution system broke down. There were certain kinds of food you couldn't get in the grocery store. And everything was designed to get the food to restaurants, and restaurants closed, and that messed it all up. And I looked around the county and I saw all these big lawns. Southern part of our county, they zoned so that to protect us from development, they said, okay, you can do lots of 20 acres. So what happened was, millionaires came in and bought lots of 20 acres and built huge mansions, and then they just cut the grass and put chemicals on the grass. Fortunately, we have, and don't grow any food. And then we have people who, during the pandemic, were out of work and wanted work. And we have technical assistance providers that understand all the science of agriculture, even though a lot of our residents no longer know how to grow things. But none of them could get together quickly enough to put that land into food production. So now we have our Office of Emergency Management looking at, if something really bad happens and we have to grow our own food again, how are we going to convert all that land into agricultural production? It's going to take people, it's going to take fencing to go around to keep the deer out. It's going to take seed. It's going to take maybe some horse manure to fertilize some of the land, and it's going to take water to make it grow. I got together with my two kids, my twin boys, and I said, what would it take to turn all these big lawns into agricultural production? And they had as good ideas as I had. Anybody can figure it out. It's very simple. We just have to come together and do it. So normally when there's an international conference about agriculture or international work on agriculture, it's all about the developed countries going to the third world countries and telling them about the science and all the great work that we've done. And it is good work, and a lot of the research has come from CERC. CERC is why we know that what goes on the land ends up in that beautiful water and kills the fish and kills the biodiversity in the water, because they've done research here on that. But where we've missed it, I think, is that we don't know how to farm our own land, but people in El Salvador do. People in Mexico do. And right now, a lot of the farm work is done by Salvadorans, Latinos, and I have just one example of how we Americans have learned and must learn from our Salvadoran, our Latino, Latin American neighbors who often live here now, how to do agriculture. So my sister and brother-in-law, and they would be embarrassed if I told this story, they have two burros, two donkeys, right? They didn't do a very good job of training them, and they didn't even get their feet trimmed for a long time, which I'm very embarrassed to say. And so when they called the farrier to come trim their feet, he couldn't get them to hold still. He couldn't even pick up their feet. So the solution was, you put some drugs in their vein and make them practically go to sleep, right? So every time they got their feet done, they had to drug them. So a friend of ours' father was visiting from Mexico, and he never went to vet school, but he was the local vet in his community. And he would go around and do a lot of the work. And he was an old man. And he found out about the burros not being able to, stand for their, and needing drugs. And it took him about 15 minutes. It turned out the burros spoke Spanish, right? They didn't speak English. He spoke Spanish to them, and they stood there and they let him do his feet. And when I think about the sustainability of agriculture, we have to get back to the way we used to do things. We have to be able to farm on small parcels. Most of our farms are less than 50 acres in our county, and we are trying to get people back into agricultural production, but we're not doing very well. So my hope is that we learn from El Salvador, more than you learn from us. Maybe we can teach you some things as well. Maybe we can do a trip someday. Maybe we do a sister city, right? But we have enough Salvadorans in Anne Arundel County that I think we have to strengthen the ties. So thank you for being here. I wish I could stay for the whole thing and be part of all the sessions, but we have a grain elevator to open.
Abogado y notario salvadoreño, tan salvadoreño como tú. En Cartapoder El Salvador te podemos ayudar con todo tipo de documentos legales a surtir efectos en El Salvador. Poderes generales judiciales, poderes especiales, poderes administrativos. También te ayudamos con procesos de divorcio, procesos de aceptación de herencia, rectificación de partidas de nacimiento en cualquiera de los 262 municipios, autorizaciones para salida de menores, declaraciones juradas, testamento. Por favor, visita a Cartapoder El Salvador y será un gusto atenderte.
En Megamar Supermarket Chillum encuentras todos los días nuestra cocina latina con exquisitas sopas, sabrosos guisados y una gran variedad de antojitos. De lunes a domingo tenemos para ti desayunos, almuerzos y cenas y todos nuestros platillos con el auténtico sabor de nuestra cocina latina, como hecha en casa y sobre todo a precios muy económicos. Megamar Chillum, localizados en el corazón de la ciudad de Hyattsville, el supermercado por tradición.
Aquí en López & Company somos expertos en la preparación de taxes, contabilidad y payroll para cualquier tipo y tamaño de empresas y organizaciones. Llámanos al 703-335-1659 o visítanos en www.lopezandcompany.com.
Envía tu caja a Guatemala, El Salvador y Honduras con Transporte Zuleta. Próximas salidas 16 y 30 de octubre. Agenda tu próximo envío llamando al 301-559-7820 y recogemos tu caja en la puerta de tu casa. Llámanos al 301-559-7820 y agenda tu próximo envío. Salidas 16 y 30 de octubre. Transporte Zuleta. Envíos puerta a puerta.
Superior Staffing Solution te ofrece la oportunidad de empleo que necesitas. Lo colocamos de inmediato y velamos porque tengas el mejor ambiente laboral, con la remuneración establecida por ley. Y si no tienes transporte, no te preocupes. Nosotros nos encargamos de que llegues a tu lugar de trabajo. Ofrecemos oportunidades de trabajo e igualdad para todos. Superior Staffing Solution. Para información, llámanos.
De cocinar. ¡Sí!
El arroz Yasmín Loti llegó para quedarse en tu cocina, acompañando tus mejores recetas.
A mí me gusta cocinar con arroz Yasmín Loti, porque es delicioso, suave y natural.
Yo siempre elijo arroz Yasmín Loti porque es fácil de preparar y a mi familia la consiento siempre con lo mejor.
Búscalo en sus 2 presentaciones y pruébalo.
Si tienes planeado realizar tu boda, 15 años, seminario, eventos empresariales o algún tipo de acontecimiento social, sin duda el lugar ideal es Casa Dora de Hyattsville, Maryland. Contamos con amplios salones de gran capacidad, servicio y atención de la mejor calidad. Haga su reservación. Casa Dora de Hyattsville. Para más información, llama al 301-379-4910.
Porque cuando viajas a la playa, no solo disfrutas de un buen ambiente festivo. Y como la diversión está en todas partes, tu apetito también. Prueba siempre los mejores platillos con la mejor harina de maíz 100% natural.
No hay nada mejor que harina más sabrosa. El sabor y tradición que te acompaña en todas partes.
Harina más sabrosa, el sabor de tus recuerdos. Grandes momentos nos unen como familia. Complacer el gusto de ellos también lo es. Por eso siempre debemos preferir sardinas Loti. No hay nada mejor como su exquisita salsita que tanto encanta a nuestros hijos.
Mi secreto son las deliciosas sardinas Loti. Su sabor y variedad son mis aliados perfectos para consentir a toda mi familia.
Atrévete a disfrutar del sabor incomparable de sardinas Loti en salsa de tomate.
Hola, soy Ovidio.